Disclaimer: the following video can contain spoilers. Once again, Walter Peck, William Atherton, comes to try to put an end to the Ghostbusters. Using their newest fiasco as an excuse, it seems like they are finally going out of business. However, when a mysterious orb appears, the team would inevitably awaken an evil entity known as Garrakka, who vows at nothing to freeze the world once more. Look, I'm gonna say it, even though I understand it might sound bad. I'm a Ghostbusters fan, yet it took me a long while to see Afterlife when it came out, because I wasn't so sure how I felt about it. Thankfully, after watching it, I saw myself enjoying it more than I thought I would. So with anticipation, I awaited this new addition to the franchise. But after watching it, I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like the story could have been good, where its execution lacked in various places. Apart from introducing some new magic systems in place, somewhat undermining the Ghostbusters from the original movie, in my opinion, the antagonist was also somewhat wasted. But where they dropped the ball was the character and emotional side to the story. But I'll come back to this soon. Even though they managed to create interesting lore based on the Ghostbusters with some cool additions like Fire Masters, I feel like they dropped the ball somewhere. Let's go through the movie and discuss further. The movie opens up in New York in 1904. Being called into action, firefighters of the time arrive to witness a chilling and haunting scene. In the present, our Ghostbusters are now in a ghost pursuit. Afterwards, we're giving some exposition through a news outlet catching us up to speed on things. We get family drama with external conflicts that doesn't really go anywhere, but what feels like a forced outcome. And then we get the introduction to our new character, whom I will definitely talk about later. He sells Ray our new MacGuffin that interests Ray because the PKE meter is off the charts. The Ghostbusters are called again, leaving Phoebe because she is currently benched for being a minor. Feeling left out, she goes on a walk where she ends up meeting a ghost named Melody, Emily Ellen Lind. Hopefully I said that right. A ghost who cannot cross over due to unfinished business. This confused me for several reasons. Is there a connection between the park and Phoebe? Why did she just randomly in the middle of the night do that? Couldn't she just do that at home? Apart from that, I'm not certain how I feel about this new character and all. Mainly because I felt her role was forced in all of this. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll talk about it shortly. The Ghostbusters are then brought to a secret facility that's expanding Spengler's vision, accounting for the future this time. Running the orb through some contraption ran into complications that sparked curiosity from the team. They then returned to Nadim's home, where the team would find out of his incredible super ability to manipulate fire. This is a huge deal breaker for me because it adds so many new rules to the world. Pyrokinesis, Garrakka, etc. It's intriguing, however, the ability to manipulate fire in order to stop Garrakka felt so weird to me. I do like the idea of fire versus ice, but this addition just felt so bizarre. Mainly because of its execution. I'll add to this in just a bit. Phoebe decides to experiment with this contraption that can, in theory, allow her to become a ghost temporarily. However, upon becoming a ghost, Garrakka uses her to free himself from his prison. Now he unleashes his fury to the world, creating the Second Ice Age, only to be defeated by the Ghostbusters. Wow. Okay. We've got a lot to unpack here. Let's go back to the beginning. The opening was pretty great. It gave us a preview of what Garrakka is capable of from this chilling event. With the mystery of the woman and this orb, we cut to the present. Like I've said before, I'm uncertain how I feel about these Fire Masters. On the one hand, it's cool to have this fire versus ice aspect to it. But on the other hand, I felt that it wasn't handled properly. This new addition felt like it was only added for plot relevance and nothing more. And that's where I think I find the issue in. That's where I think they dropped the ball in. Because there were various plot relevancies within this movie that take away from any emotional value a scene could have had. There's not a lot of weight put upon these words or actions to really give the audience a strong connection between the characters or help advance the story in any meaningful way. Things just happen for the sake of continuing the story. In short, the plot drives the movie forward instead of the characters driving the plot forward. From the first car chase, we could have gotten some family conflict sprinkled throughout, setups for a nice payoff. Okay, well, in itself, there isn't much issue. I felt that the ghosts they were hunting could have also played a part within the family conflict. Say if this ghost was extremely aggressive, causing the Ghostbusters to have to adapt, not only to city life, but adjusting their workload from capturing different types of ghosts that they have to bust, causing not only this rift between the family, but for the aggressive behavior to also come back into play later on in this scene. Because these ghosts seem afraid of Garrakka, but because we don't know how dangerous these ghosts are, them being afraid doesn't add much weight to it. It also doesn't help that they try to escape, not out of fright, seconds afterwards. I know it's just nitpicking, but it could have been great. Instead, the ghost they caught in the beginning could have been one of these ghosts that was afraid in this scene. But how can we segue from the opening scene to this scene, you may ask? Well, why not instead of jumping from the opening to the car chase scene, why don't we cut to a commercial saying that the Ghostbusters are back? Even in the commercial, we can see this family conflict/drama. And as an added bonus, we can get Walter Peck's character seeing this commercial and saying, "Dear God, not again. I thought they were gone." Adjusting the time span from the previous movies. We cut to the family who have just arrived from capturing a ghost. They continue arguing about any little thing, from the building, the job, the commercial, etc. Before depositing the ghost, they get another call, which is the ghost from the opening. After capturing it, they're about to deposit these two ghosts, when trouble arises. They contact Debbie, who tells them, in the meantime, don't deposit any more ghosts. She takes one of the traps and leaves. Done. Easy. Right? This way, we not only demonstrate the family drama that would play a big role with Phoebe later, but can also juxtapose Melody's trouble as well. She too seemed to have family troubles of her own, where both her and Phoebe just want to return back to their families.
I never wanted to hurt you, I just wanted to see my family again.
Well, my family's up there now.
And because of this, it really felt that the movie never really went far enough with these connections to make the audience care. We didn't get to see a lot of conflict that pushed Phoebe out of the way, making her feel useless, invaluable, or not part of the family. After the catalyst moment, Phoebe is benched from being a Ghostbuster. But it wasn't delved further than just her being benched. She kept doing things, and it felt like it didn't weigh her down as much as it should have. I don't recall it mentioning, but is it summer break or something? Shouldn't these kids be at school? Okay, maybe not Trevor if he decided to skip college, but Phoebe at least should, which again could have added so much more dynamic and weight to the family conflict and theme of the movie, as well as an emotional connectivity between the audience and the characters, as the siblings differ, finding value in different things in life. Where it creates this rift between the family as Phoebe feels that they appreciate Trevor more than her. Being benched is the final nail in the coffin. Instead of fighting tooth and nail for her, they succumb to the law and prevent her from utilizing her abilities and intelligence, making her feel invaluable, or not part of the family, or not loved, etc., making her leave, not wanting to come back, finding solace in the park where she would inevitably find Melody, someone who also has this problem, which she uses to her advantage, which later on we'd understand why. My point is that because there wasn't much depth in most actions, it felt that the plot drives the story forward, and as a result, I felt like the movie was lackluster. Summing it all up, I had 3 major issues in this movie. First major issue I had was Garrakka.
Heads up. Tall, dark, and horny at 12 o'clock.
Apart from this emotional and connectivity between the characters and the audience, another reason I felt this movie didn't deliver is because it failed to give us the promise of the premise. What is the promise of the premise, you say? Well, in short, it's what the movie promises it'll deliver. What the poster of the movie depicts, in other words. The promise of the premise for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is a world covered in ice. A second ice age, if you will. And although we constantly get teases, it technically never delivered. making me disappointed in the end. Yes, I know Garrakka comes back and feels part of the world and eyes, but he takes his sweet time arriving at the Ghostbusters Tower to just stand still, allowing the characters to talk, just to be defeated instantly. There wasn't any need for the Ghostbusters to adapt to the frozen cold, or this freezing new world. No hurdles jumped, because they were able to create a special proton pack before Garrakka arrived. No real stakes, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but where did it say Garrakka wanted to release the ghosts prior to his escape?
It's headed straight for us.
Is something trying to get out?
It's commanding an army of the undead.
His plan was to raise an army of the undead and wage war on humanity by channeling fear into a weapon.
The second major issue I had was with Melody's character. I find it dumb that we were just told this girl is evil, or working for Garrakka, or will inevitably betray Phoebe. What would have been cool would be to have this twist, or get to see it come naturally, because there was no indication that she was just using Phoebe to free Garrakka, not even after we were told in this scene.
Does it have to be her? I understand.
It wasn't brought up until Garrakka freed himself. And at that point I feel it was a little too late. Melody never once mentioned or made a comment about Phoebe becoming a ghost in order to entrap her into freeing Garrakka.
It's too bad we exist on different dimensional planes.
Separated.
So this scene to me felt disappointing. Somehow Garrakka can use a ghost to say incantations that somehow makes the body do that, but this machine extracts the ghostly part of the body, or the spiritual part of the body, transferring it elsewhere, meaning two separate entities, right? And yet, one still controls the other. It's not like every time Phoebe moves, her counter body moves, or every time she talks, her body's lips move. Maybe it's because, theoretically speaking, she's still alive. Not entirely sure, and the movie doesn't really mention it either. Phoebe's motivations to want to become a ghost for Melody stem from nothing because there weren't any real or clear motivating factors playing a part in Phoebe's decisions. From the beginning, it felt like the drama was forced in order to have Phoebe part ways, in order for her to meet Melody, in order for her to get in trouble, in order for her to ultimately free Garrakka. And it's quite evident because what did she learn at the end? What lesson did she get from all of this? It wasn't very clear, and because these connections weren't very deep, it felt, at the end, it wasn't rewarding.
Mom.
The last major issue I had with the movie was Phoebe herself. I get that maybe Phoebe is an angsty teen or whatnot, but her rebellion and demeanor felt out of place as well. She feels invaluable not being able to do what she loves because of her age or these hurdles. So why not lean into this? Make it play a part in the plot. It's just present when the plot needs it. Because it just kind of goes away when she does her own thing. It's not like it affects her in any way at all. Only when the plot comes up. One thing that could have happened would be that in the beginning, the family is complaining about funds. Maybe they're not being called a lot. Maybe rebuild the building because it's falling apart. So Phoebe going to jail or needing to get bail, because I think that's what happens, causes the family to use up those funds that they needed for the building, just because Phoebe wanted to be Phoebe.
I get it. Fair enough. But maybe if you weren't being so selfish, you might notice that your mom, your brother, and I have been doing everything to try and protect you. So wake up!
Stuff like this could have been useful to the story because it could have gone somewhere. It could have stamped places, but we didn't really get a lot of that, is what I'm trying to say. Pair that with Trevor's mannerisms, and both of these kids are kind of annoying, and I don't really root for them. Instead, why not have a reason for them to act this sort of way? Maybe Trevor doesn't see value in being a Ghostbusters because he gets ridiculed. It's also a job that doesn't yield a lot of money, maybe. Perhaps their move to New York plays a part in it. Phoebe loves being a Ghostbuster because of her relative's history and past, putting her intelligence to good use. This conflict divides the family apart, making Phoebe grow distance from her family, something she'll regret doing later on, like I've mentioned before. It would have also been nice if both of these dynamics somewhat counter the past in Garrakka's history. I know, I'm kind of reaching, but bear with me. Where perhaps Garrakka was imprisoned because he felt invaluable and went on a rampage in order to find value in something relative to the plot, something Phoebe will soon realize she is also doing. But as the story progresses, Trevor finds value in being a Ghostbuster because they would have stopped the world from becoming covered in ice, and Phoebe learns that her anger and wanting to feel valuable can be dangerous, making her slow down in life and appreciate what she has: family. Essentially, what I'm saying is have all of these events and scenes connect to the plot, where there's strong emotional motivations within the characters that, through their actions, advance the plot. Because it feels like everyone is having their own little thing going on with no link connecting them, besides the mystery of the orb. Melody's realization didn't add anything to the story besides plot relevance with the match, and Phoebe felt like she learned nothing from the whole journey.
For you, I get it. You're a scientist. But I mean, she's just...
Choose your next words very carefully.
I didn't think she even knew those
You
words.
could have backed me up.
So let me ask you, Miss Spangler, are you going to behave? Or do I need to have you arrested?
When you said you were interning, I didn't know you'd be blowing stuff away with lasers.
I know, right? It's still an upgrade.
I hope I explained pretty well, but those are the three major issues I found with the movie. Lastly, to prove my point, when the Ghostbusters bust Garrakka, the city celebrated. This scene would have played nicely if we saw the city be divided earlier in the movie, mainly against the Ghostbusters. Given their reckless behavior, mainly stemming from their family drama, many citizens view the Ghostbusters as a nuance, allowing the mayor to use this to his advantage to further his ambition to destroy the Ghostbusters. Not only was Phoebe benched with no real consequences, the building was seized to the city, and yet it proved not to be an obstacle for the Ghostbusters as they just waltz right in there, manage to grab the things, and protect the ghost box, and defeat Garrakka. It wasn't really a hurdle at all, is what I'm trying to say. I am now realizing that I did not talk about Nadim's character. Nadim's character was the comic relief, and I enjoyed it. I liked the way he heckled most of the time for money. I liked his character, and it was also kind of cool that it kind of tied in with Trevor's character as well, but again, it didn't really dive anywhere into it. Him being a fire master, I'm at odds because, well, like I've mentioned, it adds a lot of lore and different rules in this universe that I don't know if I like it. Especially when Garrakka comes in and he comes out wearing the armor. He talks, they all talk. Garrakka just stands there doing nothing. It was funny, but it also just kind of made Garrakka weird. He was teased and shaping up to be this evil entity that essentially stops at nothing, who's very aggressive, and he allowed them to talk, he allowed them to do all this stuff. Yeah, I don't know about that. Overall, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire should have played their cards better, where there should have been clear reasons behind the characters' actions. For example, finding value in things, where it creates a conflict within the family, where citizens against the Ghostbusters apply pressure to this conflict, making Phoebe feel underappreciated, where she would inevitably find value through Melody, who only used her to free Garrakka in order to be with her family, something that Phoebe will learn she also did. Now the world turned to ice, the family gets back together to adapt to their new environment and defeat Garrakka. I get that my suggestions also hold some flaws. I'm just letting you know I'm just spitballing some ideas I felt would have been better for the story. Again, there was several scenes that I did enjoy watching. I did laugh, but it would have been better to see this emotional connection and give actual weight to meanings, to words, to actions that would motivate the characters to act and not react. But anyways, those are just my thoughts. Did you enjoy the movie? Let me know what you thought about it down below, and I'll see you in the next review. Until then, God bless.